Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 141, July the 24th, 2017, Monday. Yep, you gotta have one of these every day. Every week you gotta have a Monday, and today's it. Okay, gonna get to some stuff on TowerGate today, but before I do, I just want to comment on something that was a pretty hot topic over the weekend over on the Facebook side. And a lot of my friends and stuff commenting on the OJ situation, and this doesn't have anything to do with what we normally talk about. But yeah, I'll chime in and get my 2 cents in on the O.J. Simpson. I remember that very, very, very well. And I remember O.J. very well. When I was a kid, he was a great running back for the Buffalo Bills. I loved watching O.J. play. He was a dirty, nasty player, but he was a really good player. And I actually wrote a book report on him when I was in like 5th or 6th grade. Read a book about him. At that time, he held 11 NFL records. Yeah, he was a pretty good football player, but he's an asshole of a person. Okay, so I think we all knew that. But obviously, a lot of people commenting on this deal that he's been pardoned or whatever. Well, OJ, he killed his wife and her boyfriend. There's no question in my mind about that. I remember the hearings. Everybody, I think, was tuned into it at that time because it was on radio, it was on TV, it was 24/7 OJ. And the overwhelming blood evidence, DNA evidence, but most importantly, what sealed the deal for me was OJ's behavior after the murder. I mean, let's face it. Let's just say your wife's just been murdered, brutally murdered with a knife, not even shot with a gun, but literally nearly had her head decapitated with a knife. I would think that the average husband would be in a deep state of pain, sadness, possibly some anger, confusion. I mean, I can think that there'd be a lot of emotions that would be going on in your mind to have found out that your wife had just been brutally murdered like that. And I just think about how most people would behave in that situation. But how did OJ behave? Well, he grabbed a gun and $40,000. He jumped into the back of his Bronco, covered himself with a tarp, and called his buddy A.J. Callings over and told him to drive him to the border of Mexico ASAP. So, not exactly the way a man would react who was innocent and upset about the murder of his wife. A lot more like the way a man would act if he had just killed his wife and her boyfriend. Now, so, of course, O.J. was found, he was acquitted of the murder, but then there was a civil suit where he was found guilty in a civil suit. And, of course, this meant that he had to pay a lot of damages, a lot of money. And in the process of having to do that, he had to go try to scare up some cash. And so he went back and tried to get a bunch of his memorabilia. And I guess he had an issue with some memorabilia that some man was holding. So he went to get his memorabilia with a couple guys with him, and a couple guns, I think, was involved. And that's how OJ ended up in jail. So this issue is not about him getting out for the murders or anything like that. It was his issue with coming to retrieve his property, which he felt was his property, this memorabilia, and in the process essentially using a gun. It was essentially a robbery, is how the police looked at it. So that's what he's actually been in jail for, and essentially an armed robbery. Okay, but it doesn't dismiss the fact that OJ murdered his wife and Ron Goldman. I think everyone agrees on that. With any common sense that's, not biased. If you watched the hearings, looked at the evidence, I mean, the evidence was overwhelming that OJ killed his wife. Now, as far as his wife's concerned, Nicole, she didn't deserve to be knife murdered, okay? She didn't deserve all that. But let's face it, Nicole Simpson was very well known for being a flirt. She liked to hang out and flirt with a lot of men. Apparently, she was having a little wild action with her young boyfriend, Mr. Goldman, Ron Goldman. And, of course, Nicole knew that OJ had a really violent temper and was extremely jealous. And it appears that maybe she liked tweaking on OJ. She liked to send him into very angry fits of rage. And she would do this by tweaking him, by looking at other men, winking at other men, talking to other men, having affairs with other men, whatever. And OJ was doing it too. He was screwing half of the Los Angeles Playboy Bunny Society, and his wife knew about that as well. So their marriage wasn't exactly a thing of beauty. They were both out there getting a lot of action on the side. It just so happened that OJ was a very jealous and violent individual. So Nicole didn't deserve to be murdered like she was, but she certainly was not an angel in that situation. She, in a lot of ways, it was the one who really probably motivated OJ to do it, although he should have just divorced her. Killing your wife is not a good idea. You should just divorce them. And that's what he should have done. Now, Mr. Goldman, Ron Goldman, it's not a good idea, Mr. Ron Goldman. Of course, I'm sure you realize this now that you're 20-some-odd years in the grave. Hey, it's not a good idea to mess around with a married woman, especially if her husband is a retired professional football player who has a very nasty temper and is very jealous. Very, very bad to play around with a woman who has that kind of a husband who keeps tabs on her. In fact, he had a private eye who would often follow her around and make reports and give them to him and stuff like that. So OJ knew about all the things that his wife was into, and one of the things she was into was Mr. Goldman, and he was also into some Mrs. Simpson, and it cost him his life. Again, he didn't deserve what he got, but here's the moral of the story. Don't screw with another man's wife. That's the moral of that story. Now, 3 words for OJ that I think he should be awfully cautious of. Ron Goldman's father. There's 3 words for you, OJ. Think very carefully about those 3 words. Ron Goldman's father. I assume he's still alive. And if I were OJ and I were getting out of jail, I would be looking around, looking over my shoulder to make sure that Ron Goldman's father isn't somewhere around. So that's my take on OJ. Let's see. Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush, who never managed to crack 3% in the polls, recently came out and made a comment slamming the Republicans, believe it or not, for giving President Trump a free pass on Russia. Now, a lot of people think that Jeb Bush and the Bushes went away. They did not. The Bushes will never go away. The Bushes do everything very cloak and dagger. They don't like attention. But you can bet that the Bushes are working very, very actively behind the scenes and are very much connected to the deep state and the Republicans in Congress who despise Trump. They wished, of course, George Bush was their boy, and of course the Bushes still have a lot of sway in that party, and they operate in a cloak and dagger, sort of behind in the shadows, sort of thing. So that's my thoughts on Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush should just shut up. No one really cares what he thinks. But to make the statement that the slamming Republicans for giving Trump a free pass on Russia, it's like that's the most extraordinary thing I could actually imagine. It just shows that Jeb Bush is really as stupid as he looks. He knows for a fact, because he's involved behind the scenes in trying to take down the president as well. He's part of the deep state. His family is a very, very important part of the deep state and have been for many, many years. The Bush dynasty goes all the way back to the 1920s, 1930s with Prescott Bush. Do a little research on Prescott Bush, and I think you'll find out what I mean. He was the king of the swamp. Anyway, Jeb Bush, what an a-hole. What an a-hole. Just shut up and go away, Jeb. Okay. Vanity Fair magazine writing an article. Scaramucci says Trump still unsure if Russia meddled in the election. And this, of course, sets up a showdown with Trump and the Congress, including a lot of Republicans, over the new sanctions on Russia. And he was, of course, on this interview with Vanity Fair, and they're talking about the fact that, Trump has told him personally that he's still not 100% sure that Russia was behind in being involved in the election. Very well done, Mr. President, because that's what a lot of your supporters believe. That's what a lot of other people believe. Even many Bernie Sanders supporters agree with Trump that we haven't really seen any evidence. We keep hearing about this Russia collusion, but the Russians deny it. WikiLeaks denies it. Assange denies it. The president isn't convinced of it. I haven't seen any evidence of it, but there's one surefire way to find out, and it's called that server. That server that no one apparently wants to look at. Do you believe if the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security wanted to look at that server, they would have allowed themselves to be denied? Ain't no way, brother. If the FBI wants to take a look at your server, they're going to come and take it. They may ask nicely the first time. Tomorrow they're coming to get it. The Republican Congress, all these committee members, the Pitbull, Mr. Grassley, and the other idiot we talked about yesterday on the Judiciary Committee, Senate Republican, the DNC Server is sitting right there. All you got to do is go over and take a look at it. You can subpoena that. Apparently they don't want to do that, but that's where all the answers lie. For some reason, they don't want to get into that server and get the answers. I wonder why. I think Trump wonders why. I think Mr. Scaramucci wonders why. I think many of you wonder why. I think many Trump supporters wonder why. I think many Bernie supporters, including our good friend H.A. Goodman, wonder why. Everybody wonders why. Why not go take a look at that server? Why not show us the money, show us the evidence, show us the triple-double, show us whatever you got? Because at this point, I'm not convinced, and neither is the president, and Scaramucci's a good man. They will destroy him in about 6 months, but he's a good man now. Anyway, it's funny he would say this. Now, of course, as we know, there's this bill that's now been put in Congress, which is going to require the president's signature to put more sanctions on Russia to punish them for hacking into the elections. It will be very interesting to see if Donald Trump signs that bill. I think he probably will. And I think Putin understands this. I think Putin understands very well the battle that Donald Trump is facing, and I think Trump understands that Putin is facing these same exact people. They are part of the Atlantic Council that we talked about 2 days ago. They're trying to take Putin down. They're trying to take Trump down. Both Trump and Putin realize the game that's being played on them, and I think they understand that both of them need some breathing room until they can get the various people out who are causing them the problems and get some other people in there. I think they're both dealing with a very similar issue. I think they understand this, and I think that Trump will probably have to sign this bill. But I think Putin understands it, and I don't think it's any surprise to the Russians. I think they're perfectly prepared for it, and probably assumed it was going to happen anyway. But the thing that Putin mostly cared about was our funding the rebel fighters in Syria. And of course, we know that Donald Trump has recently told the CIA and probably the intelligence agencies in Israel and Saudi Arabia and Qatar to stop funding these foreign fighters in Syria. And if you keep sending these people in, the faster you send them in, we're going to hit them, along with the Russians. So I think that this was a lot more important to Putin than any of these sanctions. Quite honestly, we really don't have much trade with Russia. And as far as the Europeans are concerned, they're not going to fall in line with a lot of these sanctions because a lot of them do a lot of harm to the Europeans, do nothing to us. And you're going to see a lot of pushback from small business people and even large businesses in Europe about these sanctions because they do more harm to European companies, do more harm to the Europeans than they do the Russians. And quite honestly, they do no harm to us. They have no effect on us whatsoever, and they really don't affect the Russians all that much either. So anyway, it's a big nothing burger. It's just another way to try to pinch Trump, to try to back him into a corner, to try to make him do something he doesn't want to do, to try to beat back his attempt at anti-globalism, fighting the globalist. That's all this was about. That's all this was about. And remember, the Republicans are leading the charge on this. They are the enemy, my friends. Republican members of Congress are the enemy. Get that in your head. Do not forget it. Watch what's going on. And in 2018, hopefully we can primary every damn one of these guys and blow every one of them out. That's what I would love to see. That's what I'm hoping for and praying for. That's what I'll be pushing for as the 2018 elections go forth. I will be making videos talking about why we need to primary every one of these rotten bastards and throw their asses out. They are horrible. Horrible. Now, Washington Post reports that Sessions had discussed elections with the Russian ambassador. And of course, Trump tweeted that it has to stop. The left-wing media, of course, is still trying to say that Trump was setting up Sessions. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that Trump's trying to set up Sessions by leaking this. It's just another deep state leak, a well-timed leak before the weekend, but it's still getting a lot of play. I thought this thing would die in 24 hours, but they're still talking about it today. I don't know why. I mean, it's frustrating as hell. It's frustrating for me. I know it's frustrating for all of you. Think how frustrating this is for Trump. Can you imagine being the president and having this be happening to you? Could you imagine that? I mean, we don't really have anything we can say about it. We're just spectators and pundits out here in the hinterlands. Donald Trump's the president, and he's got to be just really frustrated. And but this story, I don't know how it got enough legs the last 3 days. But no, Trump's not setting up sessions. It's not what he would do. I don't believe he would do that. I believe Trump's the type of guy who would call Sessions in his office and say, "Look, man, you're killing me. I love you to death, but you're killing me. Please submit your resignation, resign, say whatever you want, spend more time with your family. You want to start raising raisins or something. Tell them whatever you want to tell them. But really, for both of our benefits, please go." But no, he wouldn't set up Sessions with another leak. Or anything like that. This is just crazy talk. But that's what's out there. And you can be sure that there'll be Republicans who will go on MSNBC, CNN, talk to the New York Times, various other sources, and they will continue to promote this line bullshit because we know whose side they're playing on. The next issue up is Trump pardons. Now, there's nothing that Trump has ever tweeted that I ever had a problem with. I actually like his tweets. But now it looks like this story is associating about these Trump talking about pardons. Now, if this really was Trump, if Trump started this, and I'm not so sure he did, but if this was all started by a Trump tweet talking about pardons, that would be a tweet I would disagree with. Shouldn't be talking about pardons, okay? The only time you should be, if you're talking about pardons, it's because there's something you need pardoned for, as in like crimes. There's no crimes committed by Trump. No crimes committed by anyone around him. There might have been some, minor situations with filing a piece of government paperwork like Manafort, or maybe Michael Flynn not filling out a form or something like that. But as far as actual crimes, which would require going to jail or anything like that, any major crimes, there's nothing going on there. So I don't know why you'd even be talking about pardons. Plus, you just wouldn't do something like that. I mean, it's just why are we even talking about pardons? If he tweeted about pardons, I mean, that was not a good tweet. Should not have tweeted about pardons. Shouldn't be talking about pardons. Shouldn't, the only people who should be talking about pardons are the Clintons. The only people who should be talking about pardons are Susan Rice and James Comey and all these people. Maybe he's talking about pardoning them. But no one, Trump, nor anyone around him, as far as I can see, needs any pardons. So I don't really understand why that's suddenly made its way into the media, and why people are talking about whether or not Trump would start issuing pardons to people who were convicted of crime. If people were convicted of real crimes and it was proven they committed real crimes or whatever, I really doubt Trump would just pardon them. Now if he deems like a witch hunt, I think that what they were talking about was, would Trump pardon himself? And again, the fact that this is even a topic of conversation is just nuts. It's ridiculous. It's crazy talk. But this is what we're dealing with, man. I mean, this is the type of stuff. This is why you got to get a handle on what's going on there in the communications at the White House. You got to drain that swamp. It's clogged, obviously. Something's clogging the drain. Something's stopping the swamp from being drained as fast as it should be. Like I said in the video yesterday, get a list of every Obama appointee and fire every damn one of them, even if 90% of the government goes unstaffed, until you can get someone else in there. Better to have nobody than to have these Obama holdovers, because they are killing him. And, pardons, Trump pardoning himself, or pardoning his son-in-law, or pardoning his son. This is just crazy talk. I don't know how we got here, especially with all the important issues that need to be talked about. The healthcare fiasco, Obamacare collapsing. They can't get the budget done. They're not talking about infrastructure. The wall needs to go up. I think they're arguing about that now. I mean, it's just, I've never seen a bigger mess in my life, and it has very little to do with Trump. It has more to do with the people around him. He's getting bad advice. He's being sabotaged by his own party. He's got everybody and their brother out to take him down, and all he's got really is us. And and we can't help him. We can't help him. If he'd bring me to Washington and make me Attorney General in 1 week, believe me, I would have this thing turned around because, as I said, what needs to happen is they need to go on offense. When you're on defense, you can't score. All you do is, it's like a war. Trump's in a war. He's getting bombed every single day. He's getting bombed and shot at, as well as people around him. They're not returning fire. They're not dropping any bombs. They should be, Comey should be right now in front of a grand jury for obstruction, as well as his boss, Loretta Lynch. Susan Rice and Samantha Power and these other people should be answering questions, showing the evidence, showing the probable cause, why they engaged in all of this surveillance and unmasking. Obama should have to explain why he, in the last couple weeks of his administration, opened it up so that all this information could be shared, in other words, disseminated, in other words, leaked. We should be talking about all these leaks, 130 some odd leaks now, not a single person caught for any of them. Why not? Comey couldn't find the leakers, so maybe the new FBI director will be able to find the leakers. Comey certainly couldn't. What's going on over there at the CIA with Pompeo? He hasn't turned up anything. What the hell's going on? It's a big mess, man. Now, kind of a funny thing, Mr. Chopa commented on the video either yesterday or day before yesterday video about Democrats, specifically the Clintons, people involved in the Clinton Foundation, looking for a island in the international waters to buy because I guess they feared that there may be some prosecution coming down the road. I don't know why they get that impression. It appears that they've got everything well in hand. But I did look into this, and Mr. Chopa is absolutely correct. The Clintons actually did purchase a $200 million mansion in Maldives. They do not have an extradition treaty with us, although believe me, if you're the president and you want somebody, I don't give a damn what island they're on, drone strike them. send the CIA out there after them. Use some third party to go get after them. Believe me, you want to get to someone. You're the president of the United States. You'll get to them. Believe me, there is no escaping the long arm of the intelligence community if they want to get you. And so I don't know if the Clintons are safe as they think they are. But the funny thing is, the man who brokered the deal was Gustra. That's right, our good friend Mr. Gustra, who should also be in prison for racketeering and fraud associated with the Clinton Foundation. So he's the one who brokered the deal for this $200 million mansion in Maldives. And he had apparently made a comment saying, yeah, if Trump... and apparently this was done. Apparently what happened was in the debates, the first debate after Trump looked at Hillary and said, yeah, something about, you should be in jail, and if I get elected, you may end up in jail, or, I'll be looking into this or whatever. The very next day, apparently, Bill Clinton called Gooster and said, hey, I think we may want to look for something out in international waters where we don't have an extradition treaty, because Trump's crazy enough that he might actually try to go after us. So apparently that's what happened, and so apparently they've been working on this deal, and apparently they just recently, within the last few weeks, have closed this deal, and now the Clintons own this mansion, and there's actually a photograph of Bill Clinton taking his dog out to pee around a palm tree. It's a beautiful property sitting right on the waterfront. These are like 200, there's like 230 waterfront homes on this particular, it's like a resort island, which of course billionaires and people like that can afford. And so now the Clintons have a $200 million mansion in Maldives. Every penny of that money stolen, probably money that was supposed to go to those earthquake relief victims down in Haiti. But now the Clintons have a $200 million mansion in the Maldives. But let me tell you what, if Hillary Clinton gets convicted of these crimes, I doubt she will, but she should, and I hope she will. But I see no evidence that that's going to happen. But if that should happen, and her being in Maldives is not going to stop them from getting her, believe me. The Clintons still have assets all over the world. They still have contacts all over the world, and unless they want to live like prisoners on that little island where there's really nothing there, but that little home that they purchased could be repossessed. The government certainly could go after that home and take it. They could take every single penny the Clintons have. They could take every single asset the Clintons have. And unless the Clintons want to live like they're on Gilligan's Island, unless they want to be out there like natives living on this island, build them a hut and eat pineapples and bananas for the rest of their life, because they're both too damn lazy and stupid to catch a fish, then That's what they'd be looking at. But no, the mansion in the Maldives will not protect Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton if they are convicted of high crimes based on what Hillary did as Secretary of State or based on what they've done with the Clinton Foundation or the Clinton Global Initiative. No, they will not escape the justice there because all their assets could be seized. So, nice try, Slick Willie and Hillary, but that's not going to work. But they're probably going to skate anyway because they're part of the deep state, as are 99% of the members of Congress, and they will be protected. The only way the Clintons might get justice is if a couple of Trump supporters manage to find their way to Maldives and hand out some justice of their own themselves with their bare hands. That may be the only way it happens, and I would not object. Okay, so that's basically what we have going on for today, Monday, in TowerGate, July the 24th, day 141. I'll be back tomorrow with some more, hopefully a little bit more hard-hitting news for you. We are supposed to be having some hearings coming up this week. For whatever reason, they're not posting these hearings on their websites. I guess they don't want to draw a lot of media attention or security reasons or whatever. These people are kind of coming in, and we're hearing that they stopped in later. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens this week. And I guess we'll find out in kind of day-by-day fashion exactly if anyone showed up, what they talked about, or what we could learn. So we're going to be finding out more about this as we go. So thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate all your support. And, of course, always enjoy your comments and thumbs up and all that stuff. So we'll be back with you tomorrow, and we'll see what shoe drops next. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good evening. Bye.